You can't fix an inconsistent format by describing it harder. You fix it by showing it. Welcome to the Atlas. You've written careful formatting rules and watched the output drift anyway. This episode is the fix, and it isn't more rules. It's a few well-chosen examples. You wrote the formatting instructions carefully. Output JSON with these keys, lowercase the sentiment. Always include the list even when it's empty, and it still drifts. A capitalized value here, a missing field there, a stray sentence wrapped around the JSON, so you add more rules, and it drifts differently. The model isn't ignoring you. The problem is that a description of a shape is lossy. Words can only approximate the exact keys, the exact casing, the exact way you want the empty case handled. Every rule you add narrows it a little, and never quite closes the gap, because you're describing a picture instead of showing it. There's a ceiling on how consistent you can make a format by describing it. Past that ceiling, more rules just add noise. The model needs to see the shape, not read about it. Here's the lever. Examples are one of the most reliable ways to steer the output's format, tone, and structure. A few well-chosen input-output pairs, few shot or multi-shot, prompting, demonstrate the exact shape you want, and the model generalizes from them. You don't teach someone a handshake by describing it. You show them once. Output format is the same. The model sees the keys, the casing, the way you handle the empty case, not as rules to interpret, but as a pattern to match. The documentation lists this as its own technique. Providing examples trains the model's understanding better than abstract instructions. For a model, examples are the pictures worth 1,000 words. And showing pairs with describing. The example shows the shape. A precise spec names it. Use both and you've closed the gap that rules alone couldn't. But a few is doing real work in that sentence. Not one. Not 100. There's a number and a way to choose them. Before the craft, the anatomy, because where you put the examples and how you wrap them decides whether the model reads them as demonstrations or confuses them for instructions. Wrap each demonstration in an example tag and put several of them inside an examples tag. That boundary is what lets the model tell a demonstration apart from an instruction. The same discipline scales to the whole prompt, a tag around the instructions, a tag around the context, a tag around the examples, a tag around the live input, and a prompt that mixes all four stays unambiguous. Ordering matters too. Put long source documents at the very top, above your query, your instructions, and your examples. It measurably helps across models. The structure isn't decoration. It's how the model knows this is a picture to match, not a rule to follow. Untagged examples blur into the instructions and lose their power. Make it concrete. Say you're classifying customer feedback into a fixed JSON shape, a sentiment, a list of key issues, a list of action items. Description alone kept drifting. Watch 3 examples lock it. Example 1, a short angry review paired with a clean object, sentiment negative, the 2 lists filled in. Example 2, a glowing review, the same shape, sentiment positive. Example 3, a mixed review whose action list comes back empty, the same shape, with an empty list, teaching the edge case by showing it. 3 pairs do 4 jobs at once. They pin the exact keys so no field wanders. They pin the casing, because every example shows the value lowercase. They pin that the lists are always present. And the third one teaches the empty list case by demonstration, instead of in a rule the model has to interpret. Then a 4th review the model has never seen comes back in the same shape, because it matched the pattern, not a rule. How many and chosen how? The number first, include 3 to 5 examples for best results. Not 1. 1 overfits. Not 100, that's the trap. 1 example overfits because the model copies an incidental quirk of that single sample, a specific company name, and exact phrasing instead of the general shape. A few examples triangulate the pattern, then make each one relevant. Mirror the real case. Diverse. Cover the edges and vary them enough that the model doesn't latch onto something incidental the examples happen to share. And structured, wrapped in an example tag. The deeper discipline is curation. Don't stuff a laundry list of every edge case. That's the documented anti-pattern. Curate a small set of diverse canonical examples that portray the behavior you want. And remember, each example costs tokens, so each one has to earn its place. If you're not sure, You can ask the model to evaluate your examples for relevance and diversity, or to generate more. Examples don't only steer the prose answer. When the structured data you need is a tool's arguments, examples have their own first-class home. On a tool, you add an input examples field, an array of example input objects, each one a well-formed call. They show the model when to include an optional parameter, what format a value takes, how to nest a complex object. The rule of thumb mirrors the prompt: lead with a clear description, and reach for examples when the tool's inputs are complex or format sensitive. And each example has to be valid against the schema, or it's rejected with a 400 error. There's a third surface too, the reasoning. Put a thinking tag inside a few shot example, and the model generalizes that reasoning pattern into its own thinking. Same lever, 3 surfaces, the response, a tool's inputs, the way it reasons. Here's the line every architect has to know. Examples make your shape likely, they don't make it certain. And there's a precise point where likely stops being good enough. Examples bias the output toward your shape strongly, but never all the way to certainty. And when you need valid JSON conforming to a schema every single time, the documentation steers you off prompting and onto the schema feature, which compiles your schema into a grammar that constrains the output. That's a guarantee, not a nudge. But it isn't either or. The schema feature only speaks a subset of JSON schema. A minimum value, a max length, a recursive shape, those return a 400 error. And exactly there, an example can still demonstrate the constraint the grammar can't enforce. On a tool, the input examples field and the strict flag compose. Examples teach the patterns, strict guarantees the validity. The best integrations use both. Examples for what a schema can't say. The schema for the guarantee. Here's the beat that separates knowing the technique from mastering it. 4 confident beliefs about few shot that feel right and fail anyway. Belief 1. One example will fix the format, but one overfits. The model copies an incidental quirk of that single sample. Use 3 to 5 to triangulate the shape. Belief 2. More is always better, so stuff in every edge case. But a laundry list of edge cases is the documented anti-pattern. Curate a few diverse, canonical examples instead, and remember each one costs tokens. Belief 3. Few shot guarantees valid JSON. It doesn't. It biases the output strongly toward your shape, but a grammar is what guarantees. For conformance every time, that's the schema feature. Belief 4. It's examples or the schema feature. It's both. Examples demonstrate the constraints a schema can't express, and on tool inputs, they layer with the strict flag. Every one of those is the edge of a craft point you already learned. The one who fails picks the belief that's true most of the time. The one who passes knows where it stops. Put it on one screen. Your format is drifting. Here's exactly what you do in order. First move, stop describing, start showing. 3 to 5 examples, relevant, diverse, canonical, wrapped in example tags. Put them where the shape lives. In the prompt for the response, in the input examples field for a tool's arguments, with thinking tags inside for a reasoning style. Then the one decision that matters. Do you need the shape valid every single time? If yes, hand off to the schema feature for the guarantee, and keep your examples for the constraints it can't express. If general consistency is enough, few shot carries it on its own. Showing makes your shape likely. Constraining makes it certain. You were never going to describe your way to a consistent format. You were always going to have to show it. 5 things to carry out of this one. Show the shape, don't describe it. A demonstration beats a rule. Use 3 to 5 examples, relevant, diverse, canonical, wrapped in example tags. Point them at every surface, the response, a tool's input examples field, thinking tags for reasoning. Remember examples bias. They don't guarantee when you need it valid every time. Hand off to the schema feature. And the best integrations use both. That's the technique. Show the shape, choose the examples well, and know where showing gives way to guaranteeing. Thanks for watching The Atlas. Subscribe for the next prompt engineering unit, system prompts and XML structure, the scaffolding that shapes how the model thinks before it answers. See you there.